Jack, can we get a Are You Nuts? Just a full Jack Halal Are You Nuts for the program.
Are you nuts?
38 Counting, episode 12. What the fuck is going on right now in the sports world? I mean, we were just kind of demoing what this episode could be like today. We're like, NBA, this and that, whatever it can be. What the fuck is happening? I mean, Kevin Durant's Twitter, his burner got leaked
The
yesterday.
Katie files.
It was fucking crazy. Michael Jordan was doing some crazy shit to a kid at the NASCAR event. So much stuff happened, and it was a wild week. It's been quite some time since we've spoken. We took a break, I guess, from speaking for being on speaking terms in this podcast after the Patriots lost the Super Bowl. We did have our little post game talk about that. That won't be what we're going to talk about off the top, but we'll talk a little bit about what the Patriots offseason will look like, and what we think could potentially be adds to this team. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Good. Been missing the boys, missing the show.
Everyone misses the show. Declan, everything good?
Yeah, chilling, just ready to do another show.
That's right.
Nowadays.
Starting off the top here, Jason Tatum and NBC, they're putting together a little bit of a documentary to, I guess, get the audience going on a return. Even though it seems like, I don't know, is he coming back? Moving the game up on March 1st to 8 p.m. and moving it to NBC, and you're playing the 76ers. I mean, who wouldn't, you couldn't ask for a better moment for Jason Tatum to return. I think it's inevitable now. I think the entire Twitter sphere is, either you call Tatum corny for being a part of a documentary and whatever the case is, but I think my whole argument on this is that the NBA is just in the business of making money, and that's obviously the truth of the matter. And they're going to profit off of this injury, and they're going to profit off of this return to the best they can, I guess. So what does this return mean, and kind of your guys' thoughts on what NBC is doing?
Yeah, definitely they showed the preview during the All-Star game. They kind of showed some of it, and obviously, like we said earlier before we started the show, that it's the NBA. They're gonna try to make money no matter what. This is what they want to do, but because if you saw the interviews at the All Star game, numerous players were asked about Tatum, and they said the league should be ready for him. When a guy of his nature or his talent goes out of the league, it makes a difference. There is a ripple effect.
Mhm.
And just if he could come into a game like that, probably still, even for the first game, he probably won't play a lot anyways, probably only play 20 minutes. But just yeah, obviously it's weird when they kind of switch it to prime time on NBC, go from 6 to 8 p.m. And he's talked about if he does want to come back, it would be a home game. So that does line up on March 1st, which would be the 76ers at the TD Garden. So, yeah, I think even just adding Tatum at any level, even if it's not the full top version of him, which he'll still be 100% healthy when he does come back. Obviously, it won't be the highest elevated version of him, but just getting him for the Celtics team could make all the difference in getting to the NBA Finals. So I think however your take is, I still think them getting him at any capacity will help them try to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously Tatum, when healthy, is undeniably a top 5, maybe even top 3 basketball player in the world. Obviously he's been out all year because of the Achilles, and there's been a lot of skepticism of should he come back? Should he, it's already almost March. Should he just, kind of wait it out at this point and come back in October and play a full season? So, look, I don't have any doubt in my mind that Tatum, or more importantly, the doctors in Boston, are gonna have him or tell him he's healthy to go when he's not 100% healthy. I find that very hard to believe. With that being said, I know obviously Tatum loves basketball. He wants to play. And I think he's going to if he can. Now, am I on the side of should he play or should he sit out? I think he should sit out. Um, because again, I think it's just a more of a surefire 100% chance. Like, hey, come next October, you're going to be 200% healthy. Why not just play the whole season? Who knows if he'll be a little rusty? I know he's been practicing, but practicing in full full speed gameplay is a lot different. Um, so who knows? I know that they'll make the right decision. If he does come back, it's going to say to teams like, "Whoa, Boston's trying to win this year," and they have a legit chance now. With the way Jalen Brown's been playing all year long, but it's going to be interesting. If he does come back, great. If not, I'm fine with that as well.
I think that this team and what the sphere of the East has been this year, I think it allows for the Celtics to make a run at the NBA Finals, and bringing Tatum back into the mix, I think puts you back in that position. Obviously, on March 1st when he does return, because that's the consensus right now. Uh, I don't think he's going to play the whole game. Obviously, he'll be on limited time. He'll be on time constraint. Um, but I think that's just gonna kind of get him back and revamped and get him going again. Get the wheels turning a little bit. And I think that's very important to the team. I mean, he's one of the best. I think he's top 5 player in the NBA. He could be top 3 in some cases, right? I mean, I think that this Celtics team with Jalen and Pritchard and I think Tatum and Voos. I mean that'd be so fun to watch. I mean, like Tatum's a playmaker, Voos is a playmaker. I mean, I think once they get settled, and it's going to take some time for them to get settled in as a group, as they did in the beginning of the year, adding Tatum back. I mean, I just think the depth, as much as we said, oh, it's not there, and when you add Tatum back to the mix, I mean, you got Ugo, Jordan, you got all these guys coming out. You got Kata that could potentially come off the bench if you want to go Voos off the bench, whatever. You got a lot more flexibility when you bring Tatum back into this lineup. So, and I no longer want to see Ron Harper playing basketball in meaningful minutes with the Boston Celtics when Tatum returns, because that I don't know. I know the guard position's a little thin because we don't got Anthony anymore, and it's kind of just down to Pritch and D White. But I mean, I think Tatum's going to really elevate this whole squad, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? And I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago. I saw some Instagram reel saying like, it was I think it was Gilbert Arenas talking about, answering the question somebody asked him of, you know, what difference does even Tatum on a minutes restriction make for this Boston team? And he said, I mean, it's Jason Tatum. There's obviously going to be a big difference when even if a guy like that is on a minutes restriction, it's still going to be, an impact because he's Jason Tatum. He's a top 5 player when healthy in the NBA. So, it's going to be weird though, I think, to adjust, whether you're Missoula or even the players as a whole, because no one's used to Tatum coming off the bench or on a minutes restriction. I mean, nobody's used to that, right? So they're going to have to figure that out. They're going to have to see what works with him, who works with him. So that might take a little time. But I don't see Jalen Brown slowing down. I don't think Jalen Brown is going to, stop being the Jalen Brown he's been all year just because Tatum is going to come back. But yeah, no, I think the matchups and kind of the game plan is gonna take a little bit to figure out. But look, I'm all for it.
Anything else on this Tatum return here, Deco?
Um, not really much more to say other than what I've like been saying, kind of like the whole kind of like year with him like coming back, where like I think it's a good idea, like Jack said, like him even being on a minutes restriction is just so crucial to the team from just the impact he makes just being on the floor. You know, like like obviously there will be some adjustment, but I think Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown like are like to the point now where they work off of each other so well. So it doesn't even matter if one's doing better than the other, like it doesn't really matter who's doing what. They both just make an impact just being on the floor. Obviously, like you said, the guard depth is a little shaky. Maybe they might still consider about picking someone up through like a free agency contract, maybe. But Other than that, obviously you get Vooch in there, and Joe Mazzulla's been running some like interesting lineups if you've kind of watched the team since they got Vucevic, with Pritchard still coming off the bench, which could change because Joe just likes to kind of change it up a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, just if he comes back, it's not going to be pretty for the rest of the league. That's all I'm going to say.
I will say, I think just the plus minus of Ugo Gonzalez on the floor. If you
Mhm.
play a guy like Ugo and Tatum, I did. They just have such, obviously no one has a bag and a play style like Tatum, but I'm saying the tenacity and the mentality. What's funny, Jack? Here, the tenacity, the mentality of both players. It's so similar to me, and I think it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, also even like Walsh too is
Yeah,
also
yeah.
part
I
of
think
that.
it'd be fun to watch Ugo and Tatum just because we haven't seen that yet. But um, Jack, you were laughing. I want to know the.
I was laughing because I just remembered prior to the season starting up, when all three of us were at Curry and in the station in the podcast studio, Declan was kind of saying, Tatum's going to be out, but obviously Chuck, you and I were not believers that this team could
No,
make a finals run. I could maybe play in, and Declan was always positive. But I found it funny that you were like, if I see Luca Garza on the floor for the Celtics, what are we doing? And he's like playing well. It's just like funny.
is
Like
he? Does he
whoever
have like
thought
he's like a 46 or 45% clip from three or something?
he's
Yeah,
playing well. He's playing some good
Like
basketball,
he's
man.
traying the ball. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect
me
any of
either.
the. And it's like an NCAA when you're like, oh, what the fuck is my team gonna be next year? And then they all get like their ratings go up, and it's like, all right, we're good. We're everything. Everyone, that's what happened here. Like everyone's ratings went up. Like
yep,
they all. Baylor Shireman is shooting phenomenal from three. Like I don't know what
yep,
the fuck is going on. Yeah, I do know what the fuck is going on. The power of Joe Mazzulla, Sam Cassell, the power of that coaching staff, along with probably the best general manager, one of the best general managers in the entire sphere of sports, and Brad Stevens. I mean, the construction of this team, and I think one thing I want to touch on that I thought was so interesting, listening to it on a friend of the show, Mike Felger's afternoon show on 98.5. I'm freezing like crazy on my end right now. Are you guys seeing this right now?
yeah. Your like camera's just totally just like
There we go. We're back. My gosh, for the audio listeners, that is not nearly as bad as what you just saw there. But one point that Mike Felger, friend of the show, brought up in his afternoons with Tony Maserati and friends is this whole situation with handling how much money's on the books and then cutting it in half. Like it was what 352 or something crazy or whatever it was, down to like
Mhm.
115, 117. Is that as cool as it seems because we save money and we're still good? Or should they just keep should we say as fans, spend as much money as you fucking want because the penalties are not actually real? And what is your thought on that? Is cutting that the salary down, I guess, because it was crazy with Holiday and Porzingis and even Simons, whatever. Is that important to you as a fan, or like saying, "Oh, we're still good and we save money"?
um, you know, like I think it is important just because like those like luxury taxes, like on the like luxury tax, it is so much of a hit, even just like being over the luxury tax. Because it's not about being like under the cap space. It's more just being like under the luxury tax threshold. Because if you're under that second apron, like the amount you owe is just like so insane to me. And plus, like they got rid of guys who like weren't playing. You, you know what I mean? Like Xavier Tillman wasn't playing. Was he a good leader in the locker room? Yeah, but he wasn't playing. Josh Minot did kind of play, but his minutes got taken just because like the impact of Walsh and Hugo just being on the floor kind of pushed him out. And they got rid of who's the third person? I can't remember because obviously Simons, but there was a third person they got rid of, and I can't
Was it
remember.
Bouchard? Bouchard?
Boucher.
Yes, 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 yes. Like
Boucher. I'm sorry.
yeah, like Chris Boucher, who also wasn't playing. So like I think it's also like Brad Stevens, like just want to like cut some of the money. It's also just in case, you know, if there is a possibility of them signing another guard out that who's like not like on a contract right now. So I think there's also still the option of that to consider, which is a big part of why they did it. I I also think they would have either done this now or they would have done this like one of the first days in the off season anyways. So it's basically just like getting like ahead of it. So
It
because they were gonna cut these guys or trade them like no matter what because they weren't because Brad that's what Brad usually does. He usually trades players who aren't playing, and he just tries to get some form of compensation for them. So I don't really think it's a problem if they need to cut money. I trust Brad Stevens no matter what. So it's like he's proved he's one of the best GMs in like the league. So if he needs to cut something, then I don't really mind it. I don't really think this is much of an issue. So yeah.
I will say, is there something there with Amari in the G League? Is there something there? Because I mean, they did bring the contract up, right? Or is
Yeah.
that somebody that you can kind of, you know, push a little bit, maybe get a couple boards, maybe dunk the ball, and then say, okay, is there a comparable guard that I can trade, at some point down the line for this guy? That's kind of how I look at it. And I mean, I think the guy can be pretty solid, but
Yeah.
the point now is that there's more than enough people playing center on this team, um,
Yeah.
now. So time will tell. I do think we're going to see a lot more potentially Sam Hauser at shooting guard, Derek White at point guard at some point, like when Tatum comes back. I mean, just a lot of guys that can shoot. Hauser can't play defense pretty well, but like that whole, I think that lineup could happen at some point. It's just the guard depth is really what they're missing now. And there's no
Yeah.
perfect roster. There isn't. I mean, the only team that really has constructed one, in my opinion, was that the Celtics 2024, NBA Finals run.
Mhm.
Without that was probably the best roster construction. The timing of the roster, the health of every player, that they got lucky with. No team will ever be perfect, but I'll leave this now transition to the next topic. I think this Celtics team has a legitimate chance at a run, just judging by how the
Yep.
East is shaping up, judging by how the caliber of player, the leader that Jaylen Brown has turned into. It's been phenomenal to watch. I doubted him. Jack doubted him. And I always loved Jaylen Brown as a player. I never thought he could take that step. I'm never going to doubt him again. Declan, you might be the biggest ride or die in here, and you're feeling pretty good at this point in time.
Yeah. Like I was the only one who believed, so I'm the greatest. So yeah.
I was
Yep.
just gonna say quickly. Obviously, I was very down on Jalen Brown not being able to lead this team prior to the season, but I heard something. I think it was, I think he was on his stream with somebody else, and they asked him like, how hard was it for you, you know, to go through the game, game 7 and at home against Miami when you had 8 turnovers, knowing that Tatum went down with an injury and you were kind of the focal point of the Celtic team and you had to, the whole city was behind you and you kind of let them down. And Brown kind of said like, look, it's like it was the worst feeling ever, and I hated the way I felt after I had an opportunity. I didn't capitalize. And now obviously I'm paraphrasing. Um, but just hearing that, it's kind of like he clearly has worked hard to not have that happen again. And obviously we needed him in one game, but he's been doing it all season long. So it's cool to see. And knowing that he reflected on that and is built on that, that's what you want from a leader.
I will now, I will now transition over to kind of what the next topic here will be, and I think before we get into Red Sox spring training, I think we should talk a little bit about what this Patriots outlook is going to look like for next season. I know it's very early now, but it's really kind of not. They're back at it 12 weeks, whatever it is, if you really think
Yeah.
about it, give or take. So I do want to kind of prop a couple questions up and see where this takes us, and we'll talk a little bit about it for the next 20 minutes, and then we'll go into Red Sox spring training, because there's a little bit of optimism brewing in that Red Sox end of my brain right now. Is it smart? Probably not, but that we'll talk about.
Yep.
The first thing I want to prop up is Stephon Diggs obviously was in Dedham District Court. He pleaded not guilty. These cases take forever. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna pose this question objectively and ask you guys, regardless of the outcome of this case, do you want Stephon Diggs back on the New England Patriots next season? I'll go Declan and Jack, and then I'll talk.
It's a complicated question because I've
Mhm.
talked about this with people like 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 huge fans of the team, just my friends, and you know, some are definitely for Diggs, some are definitely I think more people are leaning maybe towards the option of not. To be fair to him, he did have like 1,000 yard season, but if you're the Patriots, you saw not having like a true like elite like number one did to you in the playoffs, kind of towards the last two games.
Right.
Like, like, and there's not, and he's good, but don't think he's in kind of like the top 10 of wide receivers. To be fair to him, I think he's somewhere in the top 20, but as a true number one, I don't think he is. So I'm for keeping him or leaving him. If they decide to get rid of him, I wouldn't be upset. Um, I think you could maybe look at, there's the possibility of them kind of opting out of his contract because they can opt out. I think, and offer him a deal for less money, which I don't know if he would be willing to take it. Just kind of because of his personality, how he is. His point of view. It's like he put up 1,000 yards, and he was one of the biggest team leaders on the team. So that's another thing where it's like he's a huge leader on this team. But if they could find out to just get him a pay cut instead of paying him that 30 mil a year, and then say they try to trade for a true number one, then that would be more what I want. But if he doesn't want to take that pay cut, wouldn't mind getting rid of him.
Look, I mean, I think Declan hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, I was literally going to start my answer with the way he did. I think it's a tough question, right? Obviously, he had a great regular season. He had a 1,000 receiving yards, and he was kind of you know not really a big impact in the postseason. And in the Super Bowl, he didn't do anything. Um, Look, to me, and I know you guys are gonna have a follow up. When I say this, and I can answer it if you want, but if not, no worries. Like I think with a situation like Stephon Diggs, what now I'm worried about is if we do keep him around, is something gonna come out from Cardi that makes the situation even worse, and that something is gonna get in the way of him being a former or just a 1,000 receiving yard guy to something that he did with Cardi that nobody knew until now because they broke up, right? Like these are things I think about. Now, obviously, it could be way out of just out of proportion, but it didn't seem like it was that you know like mutual of a breakup, in my opinion, and so that's what I'm worried about. But to answer your question, I would be okay if he wasn't around. I mean, I think we saw what we had from with Kayshon Boutte, and I think he's taken a turn for the best. He's just going up, right? I mean, he was great all year. Um, and I think you build around Kayshon Boutte, get obviously a dominant number one receiver who can actually perform in postseason, and who's done it, right? Diggs is obviously he hasn't had a history of performing well in the postseason. We saw it in Buffalo, right? So, um, yeah, and Declan, to answer your question, like I don't think Diggs is the type of guy to take a pay cut. I think he wants all the money he can get, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I think you made a good point there. But in my opinion, I think we're headed for a departure.
Yeah, but I'm okay with them getting rid of him,
Mhm.
but they have to replace him. They can't
That
just let him.
exactly. Yep, exactly.
They just can't let him walk and
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 not do
they
anything, and
can't
not
sign
sign.
someone
Right,
who's another number two wide receiver.
Right.
because unfortunately George Pickens got is going to get tagged by the Cowboys. Unfortunately, because I think the Patriots would have thrown a huge bag at him to try to get him as their true number one. I
Yep.
just don't want them to sign somebody. Obviously, like a name you could throw out there is like Garrett Wilson. Like because the Jets were trying to trade like Brees Hall and Wilson. So if you bring in a guy like Garrett Wilson, I think that would be a kind of a good fit. I don't know, like if you, I think he would be the best wide receiver on the team. Is number one. That's yet to be seen, but I think he would have the potential to be if they brought in a guy like him in a trade. It's just that like the wide receiver market isn't that like great, other than George Pickens, who's gonna get franchise tagged. Because every other wide receiver is like at max a wide receiver too, and I don't really want them to like get someone who's the equivalent of Diggs. Because Diggs, like at best, is like really like a wide receiver too. But I just don't want them to sign another guy who's just like another wide receiver too. I would want them to either sign or trade a guy who would be their true number one.
I do. My opinion on this. I mean, it's $26.5 million on this guy's contract this upcoming season. 27 the next season. I think you opt out, try and restructure the deal. If he doesn't want to restructure, you save $26.5 million. I do kind of think I have an avenue of thinking that not a lot of people kind of like. There's two avenues. One is acquiring AJ Brown. Um, and I
Mhm.
think a change of scenery potentially could, there's two sides to everything. The other is signing Mike Evans. I know it's the kind of the tail end of his career, but he has produced every single season he's been in the NFL. I think he can continue to produce at a pretty high clip, even at his age. What is he, 32, 31,
Yep.
31, something like that. I think that could be a nice addition. Um, that could kind of play another stepping stone receiver one until you're in position to make a big trade or draft someone. But I just think if they're not going to bring Diggs back, knowing Vrabel, there's no way they don't have a plan. There's no way they don't. And if they go into the season with Keishawn Booty at the X and you're just going to keep stunting Drake in that way and not giving him a weapon. And Vrabel said it. I mean, they're going to get younger. They're going to get cheaper. They got to be better, right? I mean, and he said that part out loud. Some people like that, some people don't like that. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what's going to have to happen. I also look at the opposite side of the ball. Christian Barmore, is he going to be in the NFL next year? This case is 10 times worse than Stephon Diggs's case because, his girlfriend at the time touches the thermostat and eats his food and he beats her up. I mean, that's just, there's no other way to get out of that other than a domestic violence case, right? I mean, that we're looking at this in the perspective of what we see in the facts of what we know of the case. That's kind of what it looks like. He is an incredibly good player. You fill the void. I'm 100% certain they're going to re-sign Kyrus Tonga. I think he'll be back. But Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, they're one of the best defensive tackle pairings in the NFL.
Yeah.
To make it quick and simple, do you guys think Barmore will be back next season playing in the NFL?
Uh, to be honest with you, I don't. Um, I just think, you know, I think domestic violence is, you know, in this, I mean, not even in the in life in general. It's just it is absolutely always a no-no. And I think sports does it right. Like, look, if you even get accused of that stuff, like you're gonna get investigated and you're gonna look into. We don't want someone, let alone the Patriots not wanting some guy being accused of domestic violence to be like representing their team, but to even have that in your league is kind of, it makes your league kind of look bad. Um, I don't think Goodell obviously is going to want that around. I don't think he plays next season. And look, I know, right? I know two of you are more, Homer Patriot fans than I am. But speaking of just kind of, as Chuck likes to say, more of a neutral fan, like, to be honest, I don't really know if I would want him to represent a Patriot next year. It's just you know, Patriot the Patriot organization in the history, kind of in their history, has always signed a player to just be a good person. And when you look back, like, we we kind of look at like the epitome of what a good person is, right? And I think Barmore kind of changes that persona of who the Patriots are. So I don't think he's going to be back. And if he's not, I'm fine with it. You don't want that title around you as an organization.
Um, there's a part of me that like doesn't want him there, like Jack said, but you know, in the past, there's been numerous things of where there's been clear evidence of stuff, and most of the players just get a little suspension, and that's been it. Like a lot of the times, like if you like example would be like Ray Rice, like he only got a 2 game suspension. Like Greg Hardy got like a 3 game suspension, and they did stuff that was kind of just as bad as like Barmore, and you know, obviously you want good people on your team, Jack, but I just think the state of where the NFL is, there's been a lot of like people who just aren't really good people that have been in this
You're
league.
right.
So
You're
he's
right.
been one with the most. So I don't know if I necessarily want him on my team necessarily, but I think there's a real chance of him like still staying on this team. Just because of what league he plays in, and you know, like there's like obviously the case looks worse, but still have to wait for the case to finish. But I still think it could still finish in his favor because it happens a lot of times with these NFL players.
It does. And Chuck, before you go quickly, I just want to touch two more things. One, Chuck, I'm one of the biggest believers that there's two parts to every story, right? There is. And in fact, quite frankly, there's sometimes even three. You just don't know. Uh, I will say this. If Rashee Rice plays next year, I I don't I think I've lost hope in the NFL because I mean that guy is like not only has he been a domestic abuser, but he's been a reoccurring offender. And I mean, he's been suspended numerous times. And I just if he's not behind, bars, then then maybe Barmore will play. I mean but like a guy like Rashee Rice, I mean, I think if you're Barmore, you got to think positive. Like, look, if Rashee Rice can play, I can play. Obviously, I don't want to compare bad to bad, but I think that's kind of what Barmore is thinking.
I mean, the way I look at it is Deshaun Watson was practicing this year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't. It's unfortunate and it's crude and it's sad and it's disgusting, quite frankly, how the league kind of sort of entertains it. Like they don't really give a shit. You could do it, and as long as you're a good play, like like it's gross. So to kind of field an answer to my own question, I think he'll get suspended a few games, but I think he'll be back.
Yeah.
Do I think he'll be a Patriot though? That might be up in the air, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Just the way that Vrabel kind of goes after his the way that he personifies this team, his coaching style, family first. I just don't know if he'll be back because of that. I don't know, and they're gonna have to make an extremely hard decision, and it will be one that a fan base will remember because there is a obviously piece of this fan base that thinks that that case is gross, and there's gonna be those gross dudes that are like whatever, who gives a fuck, like that, So I do think it's up in the air if he returns to the Patriots. Will he be in the league? Yeah, I'm sure. But does he return to New England? I don't know. Looking past these cases, because I mean they're still ongoing. We'll continue to talk about them as much as we possibly can until we get to minicamp, which we're potentially tossing around the idea of seeing we get a permit in that parking lot and do a little walk and talk, maybe a little tailgating to those mini camps and do a little podcast there. Have some people on that are there, and I think it'd be fun. So we'll float that idea around and see what we can turn the corner at Gillette Stadium. I do want to say for this draft, I do think the Patriots will make one trade, and if the trade is they'll make a couple, potentially maybe a trade down, maybe they'll stick and pick, whatever. But I'm talking about player for pick. I do think that a package like that surrounding a guy like AJ Brown, surrounding a guy like AJ Brown is 100% possible. Do I think it will happen in the first round? I don't think so. Do I think it will happen in the second round? Potentially. I think that Eagles team is pretty upset. Will they trade him to New England? We'll see. I don't know what the package would be like. Maybe it would just be a second. Maybe it would just be a third. Maybe it's a pick and a player. I don't know. I do think that the Patriots could utilize trading for a guy like that. I do want to kind of prop up now. I know we're not really in there yet and ankle deep for WMLN FM 91.5's Draftathon, which will be actually streaming live on this channel. So if you're interested in watching that, it'll be simulcast live on here. Down when the draft starts, back at our college station, commercial-free college station. I do want to say we're not ankle deep yet in prospects, but you're in the back end of the draft. You have the 31st pick in the first round after having the 4th overall pick. There's a flood of disrespect, of dissing of I don't know, there's no other way to put it, of Will Campbell, right? And I think the playoffs were a disaster for him. But I do want to preface this and say, yes, that was a bad playoff run, but you can't just give up after a season, right? I think there's work to be done with a guy like Will. I think he showed a lot of great flashes throughout the regular season prior to the injury. Is this injury, since he hasn't had an injury history, is this going to hinder his play? That will be a little scary to think about. If that injury kind of throws him off and throws him off kilter, we'll see if that happens. But I do think with the 31st pick overall in the draft, the Patriots are going to probably go edge. And if they don't go edge, I can see them going tight end. I can see them going guard. I can see them going anywhere. I do think Garrett Bradbury is not going to be our center next year. I do think they're going to try and move Wilson into center, as that was his role with the Dogs. Go Dogs in Georgia. So I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, and I want to, without even throwing prospects out there, without even throwing names out there, in this little 5-minute window we have to talk about this draft process, Jack, where do you think the Patriots are going to move with the 31st pick? And do you think there's opportunity there in the second or third, but maybe to move and get a receiver that you need? What's your outlook on this draft really, really early?
Yeah, I think, look, I think a priority for you guys right now, especially, you guys meaning the Patriots, on the offensive side of the ball has got to be a tight end. We need a new tight end. We just do. So I think you try to find a serviceable, kind of upperclassman guy who had a good year last year and a year before, and kind of just see what you have with him, right? Obviously, we saw Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. They were but they weren't great. And I think you need a good to great tight end to be a really big offensive force in the National Football League. And I love the idea of a tight end. If you're not going to draft a tight end, I think trade for one, make a package for one, or sign one.
Yeah, I mean, there's two out there. I mean, there's Isaiah Likely and there's Kyle Pitts. Do you want to get?
And
Kyle...
I think either of those guys could be great for us.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely, an Everett kid, played at Everett High School. Do you want to experiment with Kyle Pitts? He had a few great games last year.
Yeah.
Are you in position at the back end of the draft to get Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon? That's somebody that I think could. My God, I'm frozen. My eyes are closed. I look crazy.
Chuck's been possessed.
I have been. Here we go. Let's get back in here. Yeah, Sadiq is somebody that I think could potentially go in the top 15. If he falls down to 31, 100% take a guy like Sadiq. The guy's a monster. Max Clare at Ohio State, that could be someone you take. And I know Vrabel's a big Ohio State guy because he went there, he coached there, whatever. I mean, there's opportunity there in the back end of the draft. You want to go tight end. I think it's an important position. I don't think Austin Hooper is going to return. I think Hunter Henry's a cut candidate. I think it's the truth of the matter. So yeah, that's kind of my outlook. Or you go all in on an edge like Max Crosby and you send 2 first-round picks to the Raiders. I mean, there's opportunity, right? Is that a lot for Max Crosby? I don't know. I think he's a superstar edge. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it as this draft season chugs along because we're pretty fucking early. And then also you can catch the draft thon live on here on WMLN FM 91.5, live on the air and live stream multicast. Jack, what's funny, man? You've been laughing today. What's fucking funny?
No, it's just you're throwing around F bombers. I like
Big F bomber guy. Call me a jet pilot. Are you fucking nuts?
Are you nuts?
Red Sox are in spring training. All the players reported. I honestly just I have things to talk about. We got 20 minutes on the Sox. I think it's important to talk about them. I think that's kind of where we're at. Press conferences. Alex Cora gets one. Sam Kennedy's gets one, and I want to start with Jack because John Henry and his wife and his kid were at spring training. They made it with the rest of the families of the other owners in the ownership group. Do you think John Henry knows a single name on this Red Sox team? Do you think he knows one?
No, and I don't think he cares to be honest. I mean, this guy's the worst. This guy is just. I've had it with him. I really have. I wish he would just sell the team, and go to whatever soccer team he's part of, Liverpool or whatever. I just dude, you clearly have no interest in owning a baseball team anymore. And to even be an owner of the Red Sox and to like continuously put them in a situation to suck is just absurd. And honestly, you should by the commissioner of the MLB, you should be forced to sell the team because it is just awful what he's doing to the people of Boston. And okay, maybe he knows Garrett Crochet and like the other guy, like the.
I'm sure he actually knows. I'm sure he knows most of the team. It was more of like a joke. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. This guy is just. I have no. I have no interest.
The audience can tell how much you fucking hate this guy. It was just more like
100%.
Yeah.
I think he needs to hear it.
Yeah, and he hears it a lot. He's hearing it basically his whole time here. Post.
So why is he still here?
Post Mookie Betts.
You can't fire an owner, I guess.
Post Mookie Betts trade. Yeah, it's kind of what it's been like, right? I will say though, and this is I might throw this podcast for a loop right now, and I might throw you guys for a loop. I do think this Red Sox team is going to win 91 games this year. I do think so. I'll put that out now, and we'll discuss it. We have time. I do think they're going to win 91 games. I think the fit of this roster, the lineup specifically as well, is making more sense with the Caleb Durbin trade. I think it is with the contact first bat. You don't really have. You would think, right, when you hear something like that, like, oh, I mean, you got to be crazy, whatever. I just think, and I think Declan, we're kind of on the same wavelength about this. I don't know about win total, but when it comes to the thump in the lineup, that platoon of Marcelo Meyer and Romy Gonzalez, that will bring you about 15, 17 home runs. Roman Anthony will probably hit 25 plus home runs. Willie Abreu will probably hit 27. Trevor Story will probably hit 22. Wilson Contreras will probably hit 25. I think we're kind of underestimating what it can be like because we're missing that one bat. I mean, if they just had one bat and then Jack would be all, I know Jack's sleeping, but I'm saying, Jack, you'd be all over this team if they had one bat because of this rotation, because of the pen. And that one bat's Alex Bregman. They whiffed on that, right? So, I mean, I do want to kind of talk about top to bottom what this lineup's looking like, looks like it's going to be. And it looks like it's going to be Roman Anthony batting leadoff, playing in left field. It does look like it's going to be Trevor Story playing short, batting second. It looks like it's going to be Jarren Duran DHing, batting third. It looks like Wilson Contreras is going to be playing first base, batting fourth. It does look like Willie Abreu is going to be in right field, batting fifth. It looks like Caleb Durbin batting sixth, playing third base. It looks like Carlos Narvaez batting seventh, catching. It looks like Marcelo Meyer playing second, batting eighth. And then Cedar Rafaela playing center field, batting ninth. So that's kind of what it looks like. Durbin's been playing more third at spring training. Marcelo's been at second. I genuinely believe that this rotation plus this lineup, the total war, the rotation's the best in baseball. I mean, it's the truth of the matter. It's better than the Dodgers rotation when it comes to health. It's better than the Dodgers rotation when it comes to consistency. I think they're going to be a better rotation. The lineup might be middle of the pack. Sure, it might be 17th, maybe 16th. Does, give or take. I think they're going to win 91 games. I think so. And
Yeah.
I think they'll be one of the better teams in the American League. It's just the way that the American League is shaped. It's just, and again, the unfortunate thing that pisses me off is that the AL is as wide open as it was last year. You don't have your power bat. You don't have you don't have those guys that thump. You could have been in the World Series. Another chance at it this year. You just don't have those thumping bats. Declan.
Yeah, like I wouldn't think it'd be crazy to say like 91 in the situation just because of how good, like you said, like the rotation is gonna be. And there still could be something happening at the deadline. They still have like so much pitchers that they could trade. You know, could if like Jeremy Duran has a pretty solid start, could maybe he be traded? L- Like it still could happen. Like these trades, just because they have so much depth at the pitching position, and like all 10 of these pitchers are not going to be able to play. So I think obviously like so much to trade like a Peyton like a Toley again, maybe at the deadline. Um, you know, I think this seems going pretty like defense oriented and with kind of just being like a fast team and like defense. I just think the only tweak they should make is moving Trevor Story to second and putting Marcelo at shortstop. I think that would just make the defense like so much better. Just because of a Trevor Story wasn't that great at shortstop. Was not that great. And I think if you put Marcelo at shortstop, which is the position he's been like coming up before he got to the Red Sox, that was the position he was at. I just think if you swap those two, it like maximizes how good your defense can be, because they had one of the worst defenses last year, and like they did improve upon it. They got Wilson Contreras, they got Durbin, and those two guys are pretty solid outfielders. Wilson Contreras is a Gold Glover, I think, right at first. Um, so that would be the only change I would make. Obviously, like you said, like the lineup's kind of like middle of the pack, kind of like 15th area. I still think it is still a solid lineup that could still win like 91 games. So I'm still having the positive outlook to start for this team. Because I've seen some good things that are like a spring training. We'll kind of see where that goes. Still kind of excited to watch. Kind of you know because you're not going to really be able to watch the Red Sox outfielders because they're all in the World Baseball Classic. But like you'll be able to see a lot of like Christian Campbell, a lot of like Tristan Casas, kind of like more like Marcelo Meyer, you know, like more like Durbin. So I think that's obviously a good sign. You want to see like what guys like Campbell and Casas still have in the tank, because I still think those two can still be like good players for this team. They just one has had unfortunate circumstances. The other one kind of got in his own head, but he's fixed his swing. So I think it's definitely like exciting for the spring training like as well. But back to the point is I don't think it's crazy to say they could win around 90 or 91 games.
Yeah, I think I think Masa's going to start on the IL again. I think he'll be Phantom IL'd again. I don't think he'll be on the roster, and they'll send him to Serbia as they did before. But if they're going to keep kicking the can down the road, you got to just DFA the guy at this point. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
what it's like.
and just take the hit.
And I'm sure it is not sure it's the worst contract we've probably given out more recently. Um, but I do think that a guy like Tristan Casas could fill the void at DH at some point in this season. I do think Christian Campbell will have his turn back in the MLB again this season. I again there might be a chance for KC to come off the bench this year.
Yep.
Is that
That's one guy.
yeah? Is that the best thing for him to do right now? Maybe. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think it's gonna be interesting. Jack, our projected win totals are around the 90-91 area. Um, you seem to differ on that. Where do you stand on this team? Do you think that they'll be in the 90 win range?
I don't. I don't. I think they're sub 85. Um, I think this team is ass. Like, to be honest, like, and again, I'm not here to argue or disagree with you guys. You guys know far more about baseball, far more about how the league works, and far more about the Red Sox than I do. I just think baseball is one of those things where you got to score runs, and the team that scores the most runs at the end of the game wins. And if you obviously you could have a great pitching rotation, but you got to round the bases. And if your offense is non-existent, you're not gonna win games, and you're not gonna put up points. And I don't know. I mean, I think again, we all, you know, I don't think really anyone thought the Red Sox kind of had a, you know, a really good wild card chance until we actually made it last season. It could be like that again. I don't know, but we don't have that one really bat that we need that, you know, can take you to the next level, on the offensive side. So someone's gonna have to step up. Roman Anthony's a stud. We know what he's capable of doing. So hopefully he can be the power bat that we need and carry this team. It's a lot to say for about 22-year-old, 22, 21, 22-year-old, to do, but we'll see.
I do want to say that Caleb Durbin, the year he had with Milwaukee was unreal,
Yeah.
and I think that he's going to be one of those guys that they're either going to be an incredible bat to ball, which he is, get the ball into gaps, run the bases, get the second, get a triple, whatever, or he'll be someone that we'll forget.
Yeah.
There's no in between. He's a solid defender. His bat to ball is great. He can put the ball in gaps. He can spray the fuck out of the field. Can he live up to it here? We'll see. He's 25 years old. He was drafted in the 17th round. He was never supposed to be a great prospect. And then last year he finished top 3 in rookie of the year voting. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen often. So we'll see kind of what that player is. I think my breakout, I'm going to put out here, we'll put our breakouts out. I think Marcelo Meyer is due for a breakout year. I think he's due to play more than 100 games, and I think he's due to break out a bit this year and show what he's made of. He was a top 5 pick. He was a guy that coming out of high school, everyone knew what kind of player he could be. I think that's the person I'm looking towards for a breakout this year. I'll go Declan and then Jack for potential breakouts this season. And before actually I ask you about that, obviously rounding out the rotation as of right now, it looks like it's going to be Garrett Crochet, Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray, Brian Bayo, and then Johan Oviedo, Connolly Early. I mean, there's a lot of options there in the back end of the rotation. So
yeah, I think they're also going to move Cutter Crawford.
Yeah, Cutter might go to the pen. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, your breakout of the year this year.
Breakout. Let me try to go something different than just saying Marcelo Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
Like a player that I think's gonna break out, or that I just want to break out.
Think or want, whichever one.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with Tristan Casas just because, like, I think once he gets healthy, which probably be by the beginning of May, I think they said
Maybe
he would
earlier,
be
maybe
back.
like April-ish, mid-April.
Yeah, yeah, they said like mid-April, but like I think for him because this is basically his make or break year. He has to do well at least because I think if he doesn't do well and if he gets another injury, he's gonna get traded unfortunately. Which would really suck because I've been watching him since he's been in like the minor leagues since he first got called up, and like that first season he had was just like you saw like all the flashes of like potential there, and it really sucks he hasn't gotten back to that kind of like rookie form, with like all these injuries. But yeah, I definitely look to him to be some sort of breakout, just to have be some kind of a power bat as like a DH.
Mhm.
Like maybe kind of that. Maybe some games he'll sub in for when like Wilson's like needs like a break sometimes. So might play some first as well, just so they can have like some sort of depth there. But yeah, I think definitely him as a breakout player just because it's his make or break year.
Yeah, uh, it's a tough question. I'm not gonna say a player that you guys already said. I want to make things interesting. Give me Connor Wong. No, I'm kidding. Um, I actually think Wilson Contreras has a like sleeper very good year. I really do. I think like I don't know why I'm like all of a sudden positive now, but like I think he saves John Henry's ass and like kind of goes stupid this year. I think like I think he hits a lot. I think a lot of fans are gonna walk home. From even if they're not at the game, I think a lot of Bostonians will just walk home with a ball in their hand from Lansdowne, hit by Wilson Contreras. I just think they'll pick it up from Lansdowne and run home. With a ball. I think he's gonna. I think he's I think he's good. What I've heard is obviously he's a good first baseman, but he can also hit. And it's gonna be last time we had a good first baseman who can hit was Schwarber. I'm not saying he's gonna be like Schwarber, but hopefully, if history repeats itself, our first baseman will be a pretty good first baseman hitting wise, and yeah, hopefully he can live up to the hype.
I do. I mean, I did say when we signed Wilson Contreras what that guy's going to bring energy and vibes wise. I just think he's gonna be the first walk off homer of the year, and I think he's gonna throw the bat into the WEEI radio booth up top, and it might hit Will Fleming. Like he's gonna throw that bat so fucking high, he's gonna scream, and it's gonna be in the City Connect greens. We know that for a fact. This is Jack Law to my left. Declan Nickeenum, all right.
Swing and
You've been
a drive!
listening to 38 and counting. Are you fucking nuts? Spotify,
Are you nuts?
Spotify,
John Henry, the
YouTube.
seat floats!
Catch us anywhere. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Peace.